It's Mark Johnson, reaching out with my very first ever video that I'm going to post on my brand new YouTube channel, of all things. So why a video? Well, it's June 2019, and it seems like everybody in my industry are doing videos these days. So I wanted to give it a shot and keep pace. And if it works out to be kind of fun and interesting and not too hard, maybe I'll do some more. I'm actually thinking of a two-part series to begin, both about getting to know me or about me. So I'm going to have About Me Part 1, sort of focused on my roots in Nebraska and where I was raised and where I went to school. I also want to answer the two questions that I get asked the most often in my life and in my career. And then in Part 2, I want to talk more about my professional career in B2B sales and some of my international travels and some of the lessons I've learned in my career. And both these videos I'm going to post up on my LinkedIn profile and again have them up on my new YouTube channel and see how they play. Maybe we'll get some likes and some thumbs up and that sort of thing. So here we go, Part 1. Today I'm reaching out from my home office in Roseville, California. Roseville is a great little town. It's just east of Sacramento, the state capital of California. We like it because it's called the City of Trees up here in Sacramento. So it's got both pine trees and palm trees, which is kind of unique. And we're about an hour and a half from beautiful Lake Tahoe, where we were this weekend actually, swimming in the lake with the boys. And we're about an hour and a half from the Bay Area, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and of course the Pacific Coast. So we really enjoy our life up here in Roseville. Over my shoulder, by the way, you can see on my left shoulder is a picture of my time when I used to live in lean this way, in Bahrain, in the Middle East. I spent a couple of years living in the Middle East, traveling around. And over my other shoulder is a crest from one of my family members in Germany. My background is half German and half Norwegian. So it's family crest we were able to capture from some of our historical research. Anyway, back to Part 1, the roots. I was raised in a little town called Ravenna, Nebraska, right smack in the middle of the state of Nebraska and almost positioned right smack in the middle of the United States, both north, south, and east and west. It's right smack in the middle of hardcore, pure Midwest rural America. Lots of farming, lots of cattle, horses, all that sort of cool stuff. And the town back then was about 1,300 people. It was a railroad town, bustling with energy, a really nice downtown with lots of stores. It's now, the railroad has moved away. The train still goes through there. The tracks are there, but it's no longer a stop and a service point for the trains. And the town population, I think, is now down to about 1,000 people. Both my parents are buried there. I don't get back very often, but it was a great life being raised there. I don't know if you've heard of a TV show back in the day called Mayberry RFD. It featured an actor named Andy Griffith who played the role of the town sheriff. His name, I think, was Sheriff Andy Taylor, and he had a son named Opie. Opie was played by Ron Howard. So if you're a baby boomer, you'll probably remember the show. If you're a millennial or extra Y-Gener, you may not remember the show, but you may know Ron Howard, who has directed and done a lot of great work in movies in recent years. Anyway, life in Ravenna was very, very much like Mayberry RFD. It was a very simple life, a strong, Christian religious upbringing in the town, and really good values. In the TV show, Opie used to ride his bicycle from home down to the sheriff's office to visit his dad and ask him all kinds of life questions. And I used to do the same thing. I used to ride my bike downtown. It was just a very safe neighborhood. Nobody locked their doors of their homes. Nobody locked the doors of their cars. Back in the day, there was just no crime, and it was really, really the good life. And I miss it. I hope someday folks like yourselves might be able to experience a life like that. The town is interesting. Again, it was, I always describe it to people as a town of one lawyer, one doctor, one dentist, one swimming pool, one bowling alley. What else? 5 churches and 5 bars. So that gives you a flavor for the economy. A small downtown, maybe a couple hundred people out of the 1,300, and the rest were all farmers. Still today, the roads outside of downtown are not paved. It's gravel and dirt roads and surrounded by acres and acres of beautiful corn farms and cattle farms and that sort of thing. It was a great life. So moving on from Ravenna, well, let me just say my dad was the town lawyer. I should mention that. So he was one of the 4 or 5 business professionals in town, and all of the farmers were basically his clientele. And there was this great learning for me to be able to hear all the stories of how he serviced his clients back in the day. I used to hear things like, I can't pay for your legal services, Mr. Johnson, but I can give you some beef, or I can give you some eggs from the chickens. And he would barter and get payment from a whole variety of ways, not only cash and checks. So I guess those are the good old days. So moving on to college, I got two offers after Ravenna High School. Go Blue Jays. And one was with UNL, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the Cornhuskers, as I talked about earlier. And the other was with a smaller college called Hastings College, which was closer to the house, where I was raised in Ravenna. And it was also where my best friend, Mark, his first name also, was going to go. He got a football scholarship at Hastings. So I thought it would be an easier transition. And me being from a small town, I thought it would be just more easier for me to go to a smaller college versus the big, 30,000 student UNL. And I don't regret my decision. I had a great time at Hastings College. My dad went to UNL. He got his law degree there. My brother went there, and he got a degree in nuclear engineering. So I was tempted to go there, but decided not to. But still today, if you're anywhere in Nebraska, more than likely you're a Nebraska Cornhusker fan, and that'll never die. Hastings was an interesting experience. Honestly, I didn't do very well, other than I got an A+ in partying and had a great time. I took full advantage of this idea of moving out of the house, being 17 years old at the time, or 18, and being on my own and making my own rules and breaking a lot of the rules and that sort of thing. So I had a great time at Hastings. I got a degree in political science and sociology. What do you do with that? I think one thing I learned about political science in college was to never discuss politics and stay away from the topic. And sociology-wise was something that was interesting to me. I was fascinated by people and culture. And I was also the benefactor of my father's vacation schedule. So during the summers as a kid, he would take us on these 2 and 3 week vacations via car. And we drove all across America and all across Canada. So by the time I was 17, I had been to 48 states. I had not visited Hawaii or Alaska. And I'd driven across Canada, both east to west and west to east, and visited all 7 provinces, attending a couple of world fairs, the last one being in Montreal, Canada. And that exposure that my father gave to me and my siblings was just fantastic. And it drove my interest in people and human nature and culture and other languages and people of other skin colors and other races and religions and political views. And so I guess that kind of went along well with my study of sociology and political science at Hastings. So I think that's it. I want to answer the 2 questions that I get asked the most often in my life. One is, how tall are you? And the other question I get is, what can you please explain your email address? So first of all, let me explain how tall I am. I'm 6 feet 8 inches tall. I don't want to tell you how much I weigh. I'm probably a little bit overweight, but I do work out every day. I try to stay fit. I could lose a few pounds, that's for sure. But I'm a big guy. Now, in part 2 of this video series, when I talk about my sales career and global travels and so forth, I got to tell you, my height has been a real advantage. People just remember me for my size. A lot of my friends call me the gentle giant, or just the giant. Some of my friends just call me MJ. By the way, there's lots of cool MJs out there. Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, and a few others. So Magic Johnson, for example. So I like the nickname MJ. But I'm tall, and so it's served me very well in my sales career. I do hope that people will remember me in my professional career, not because of just my height, but also because of the words out of my mouth, my presentation skills, maybe the questions that I ask, and that I'm hopefully a good listener, and that I've taken interest in their problems and challenges and try to come up with solutions for them. So hopefully that's why people will remember me, but I think my height has certainly served me well. So my email address, here it is. It is mrj68@gmail.com. So the first thing people say is, well, 6'8", that's the year you were born, and that's not true. It's close to the year I was born, but it's not when I was born. It represents my height. So MRJ are my initials, and 6'8" is my height written out. So I try to explain that to people. It's my initials, MRJ, and 6'8" written out. And then they said, well, I sent you an email to MRJ and the number 6 and the number 8. and that didn't work and got kicked back. And so it's been a challenge to explain to people my email address. But here it is, mrj68@gmail.com. Feel free to email me anytime, or like this video, or provide some comments at the end of it. And I'm going to wrap up. I've answered the 2 questions that I wanted to answer in this part 1 series of getting to know Mark Johnson. And I talked a little bit about my roots, my great life in Ravenna, Nebraska, the good life of Nebraska as a state. I talked a little bit about my college career and what I did in my college, my life. And that's it. Thank you all very, very much for listening today. Part 2 is going to be coming up here in another couple of days, and we'll talk more about the sales profession. Have a great day, guys. Cheers. Bye.